I am just a mere human in this 3D form. This version of me was thought of before I was even born. I know I am spirit having a human experience, but on this hell planet existence, I struggle just to finish it. This life has not been the way that I intended, but it turned out the way that divine wanted to present it. I don't like it, not one bit. If it was up to me, my life would have been more legit. The way I envisioned it to be was to show the true essence of the authentic me. I have been what everyone else perceived. To be quite honest, none of that shit was me. But who was I really? I didn't know at the time. Can you really feel me? At the time, I had an innocent mind. At the time, I showed the heart of the true divine. But I was surprised. You want to know why? Because during those times was when I was the most despised. From the time I could talk, people tried to control me, even by the way I walked, telling me who I am and who I'm not, leaving me perplexed and always in my thoughts, feeling like, how the hell you gonna tell me who I am? Calling me whores, sluts, and home wrecker? No, ma'am. But I get it. A lot of these things I won't forget it. But to be able to heal it, I must feel it. And believe me, I've been feeling it since the age of 3, when I was told by my own grandmother that there was an evil presence around me. Me, the one with love and light? I have always been a lover. I never wanted to fight. Yet and still, my sympathetic nervous system was triggered to always be the one to have to think bigger. Bigger? I'm just a tiny fraction of existence on this earth. You mean to tell me no one else on this planet knows their worth? Hello, y'all. This is your girl, Lady V, and this is Unspoken Chapters. This podcast is going to be about a poetic flow, you getting to know who I am through my creative abilities, while also giving you story time about where the motivation behind these poems came from. So, for a very long time, I've had a creative mind, and I'm a Gemini. So, I have that whole way with words. I'm ruled by the planet Mercury, so we deal with a lot of communication, performing arts, anything that's creative. Okay. And I've always liked to write. I've always liked to do anything that has to do with using my imagination. I used to write a lot of short stories to the point of where I wanted to be a novelist, but I just stepped in recently to do some spoken rhyme. I wouldn't call myself a poet, but I like rap music, you know, put a little beat to it, rhythm and poetry, you know. So I decided to give you a little taste of my creative juices, let you know what you're getting prepared for, because with this poem, there is a story behind it. Let's start from the beginning, shall we? So, first of all, I'd like to say that I am a mother, a daughter, I'm an only child, I am a nurse, I am a spiritualist, an indigo child, I'm a healer, an empath, and I've been on a spiritual journey pretty much my whole life. But I really tapped in about 10 years ago, 2015. And ever since then, life has just taken off for me. God has wanted me, the divine, has wanted me to do something with my voice and tell my story because I have been told that my story could possibly help others. I've tried several times. I've had a lot of social medias. I went through the Instagrams and the Facebooks and the TikToks and the Snapchats, and they were just not working for me. So, in a last final attempt, I decided to go at it this way and to still get my voice out there, but not to the point where it's so visual that people are paying attention more so to what's going on around me and not the words that's coming from my mouth. So here we are, unspoken chapters. Spirit came with this idea this year on February 25th, 2026. That's when I made my first poem, and it was this one. It wasn't my very first poem, but it was the poem that started this podcast. So here we are. So this poem has a lot of meaning behind it. You know, I've been on a spiritual journey for a long time, trying to figure out life, trying to figure out who I am, where I'm going, what I'm doing, just knowing who I am as the authentic soul that I know I am in real time. Before, I was a people pleaser. I used to, because I'm an only child, I didn't have a lot of, people around me. I'm not very close with my family. And I wanted to be accepted. I mean, who wouldn't? You didn't come on this earth to just be alone. You came here to learn your life lessons, connect with people who you're supposed to connect with, and move on your way. Learn your lessons and be gone. But I didn't understand at the time that everybody was not meant for me and I was not meant for everybody. I thought that because of the type of heart that I have, the kind nature that I am, that just me showing that would have me be open to a lot of friends. But no, in real life, I had a lot of frenemies. I had a lot of people who wore masks, who stabbed me in the back, who gossiped about me with witchcraft words, speaking death over my life, and me not knowing it. Me very naive and gullible, thinking that, because I'm kind and I'm nice, then everybody who showed a smile on their fake little faces was kind and nice. But no, this was the time that Spirit really had to sit me down and show me. She had to slap me around and say, stop being so gullible. These people are not your friends. They don't even like you for real, for real. They're obsessed with you because they always run your name out of their mouths, but they don't really like you. And I need you to see this. So I've been through a lot of heartache and heartbreaks and fake friendships and relationships. The one thing that I had to face on this planet was a lot of betrayal. And a lot of it dealt with the emotional aspect of my life because I gave and I gave and I gave of myself thinking I was being a good person, because when I was in Christianity, that was one of the things that they would teach you, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I always lived by that until I saw the hypocrisy of Christianity and saw that people don't do that. You know, I always was in search of trying to find something higher than myself. I knew that there was, I didn't know what to call it, but I knew that there was something bigger than me. And I was always seeking ever since a young child. But of course, when we come onto this planet, we're forced with religion, man made teachings of what people feel God is. And they just brainwash you into believing these things and Bible thumping you and, you know, telling you that you're going to go to hell if you do all these things that are just humanly you know, just just a part of your human nature, because first of all, we are in human form, but we are spiritual beings. And you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things that you shouldn't do. You're going to make decisions that you shouldn't make. You're going to be around people that you shouldn't hang around. This is where the growth comes in, because you are challenging your soul while you're here. And you're going to be deceived if you don't have discernment. You're going to be led astray if you don't know and follow the true divine like you're supposed to. And so I strayed away a lot, trying to somewhat be a martyr or somewhat show loyalty to people who never reciprocated the same thing, to the point where I was just giving of myself, my energy, my time, my resources, while nobody gave me anything but heartbreak and heartache consistently. And I didn't understand what I was doing. I didn't understand that there was a problem, because all I could remember throughout my life was do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And when I was living that Christian life, I just saw that it was so fake. And all of them were fake, and they were not good representations of what Christ beings was supposed to be like. If they sit up here preaching how Christ was, and they loved Jesus, and Jesus was this and Jesus was that, and Christ was this and Christ was that, but yet you're gossiping, you're putting down people, you're judgmental, you're sleeping with the congregation, you're molesting little kids. How is that being a representation of Christ, unless you're saying that that's what Jesus did? So, anyway, neither here nor there. I was very confused, but I was always seeking and trying to find what the truth was for me. And way back in 2015 was when I got my revelation. And the first thing I did was denounce Christianity. Once I denounced Christianity, boy, I tell you, it was like the weight was lifted off of my shoulders. I felt such at ease. I felt such, it was like something just lifted off of me, and I felt so free, and it just made me feel good. So ever since then, I've been on a spiritual journey. Spirituality has been my motivation, has been my drive, because everything in spirit is the truth. You know, you can't see your breath come out your mouth, but you know that it does. Just the same thing as the spirit aspect. You don't see spirit with your two carnal eyes, but you definitely know with your third eye. And I've had um, too much evidence being shown to me since I've been on this journey, and can't nobody tell me nothing different. Now, I'm not saying I see apparitions and ghosts and all this other stuff, because people have gifts. God gives you gifts. My gift is clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognizance. I don't have clairvoyance. That's the ability to see in the spiritual realm. Now, besides seeing, shadows, or seeing, different little lights, or seeing blurry things or whatever, but I don't have the gift of vision, but I do have the gift of intuition, which is also called claircognizance. So I learned all of these things being on this journey. And um, I have to say that it's been the best voyage of my life, and I would not trade it for the world. Okay, I've had good times. When I was a Christian, I was left confused and sad and seeking and lost. But on my spiritual journey, I've been free, abundant, traveling, seeing the world, being adventurous, having the time of my life, and most of all, elevating and ascending in my growth. So, that being said, what inspired this particular poem was me reflecting on my past, because anybody who goes on a spiritual journey, you have to go back in time. You got to go back to your childhood and remember the things that happened to you. The first time your feelings were hurt, the first time your heart was broken, the first time something traumatic was done to you or said to you, for you to start healing that seed that was planted. And that means you have to go back when. A lot of us are not going to forget what happened to us the very first time and who did it and when and where. Now, we might close it out. We might try to forget it, therefore block everything out, but it's there. It's in our DNA. It's in our skin. It's in our aura. It's in us. And until you go back in that time and heal that situation, you're going to keep reliving it. You're going to keep replaying it in your mind. You're going to keep attracting that same energy that was planted in you as a seed. So, this is where the subconscious mind comes in, because we have a conscious mind and we have a subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the frontal lobe where you're consciously making decisions and you're consciously aware of decisions you're making. Subconscious is in the back of your mind. Okay? These are the senses where, even though you might be looking at something, you're able to get all of the peripheral things that's going on around you. you know like, say for instance, I'm talking to someone and I'm looking at that person, but I'm also aware that to the right of me there's a blue car that's just stopped at the stoplight, and it's waiting to for the light to turn green before it dries off. And to the left of me, I'm aware that a lady is walking with her dog on a leash, and they're just walking down the street. And I'm also aware that somewhere behind me, even though I may not be looking behind me, I'm hearing someone shouting and cursing or singing or yelling. That is what your subconscious mind is doing. It's recording everything else around you that your conscious mind is not making aware of. So those two go hand in hand. You have to pay attention to all of it. So growing up, um, I did not come into the best family. Okay. Not only was I the only child, but I was the youngest of the grandchildren at the time. And I did not know my father, but knew my mom and her side of the family. And so a lot of the memories that I have stem from my maternal side. And it was horrible. And I am highly convinced that those people that are blood relatives, because they're not family, but they're my blood relatives, they were evil. And that I feel like they dealt in black magic. I felt like they were making deals with the devil, because, like all families, we all come from some type of generational curse type thing. Okay. And it does get passed down through the bloodline. Even the Bible speaks on that. So, my family, my maternal side of the family, was full of lust demons, incubus, succubus, and Jezebel hoes. They were very lustful, greedy, jealous, envious. They like to slander each other. It was the most segregated family that I could ever see. They were colorists. Like, my grandmother was a high yellow black woman, and I think she was born in Arkansas, but they lived in Louisiana. So go figure on that. Okay. And my grandfather was a very dark skinned man, and he had his own issues with color, because all his life he was known as little black motherfucker. So both sides had some issues, but the most of it all was envious and greed, jealousy. And I'm not going to say they hated each other, but it was always some type of opportunistic agenda that they had. So I was disliked in my family. They didn't really care for me too much. I didn't never feel protected. I never felt like they had any real likings to me. Um, and it showed. I was the Cinderella of the bunch, treated like a stepchild, so to speak. And so my family never protected me. If anything, I was the black sheep and they threw me to the wolves multiple times. So I don't have a good relationship with them and I don't care to have a relationship with them. As far as I know, they are dead to me, figuratively and spiritually. So it's just really me, myself, and I. So I do have my mom in my life, and I've had my own children. I have 5 kids, 4 boys, 1 girl, some grandbabies, and we're not as close as we like because that's part of the generational curse. Our family was not close. When I watch other people's families and how close they might have been, or at least shared that they showed that they cared about each other, I never had that with my family. Outside of my mom has always been my ace boon coon, but there's been times when we were at each other and I didn't feel that she was on my side. And sometimes I feel like that about my own kids. But this is a part of living in this life and knowing that, some people are just karmic in nature in your life. And karmic means they are people who come in your lifetime to teach you life lessons. They are a part of your lessons or a part of your blessings. And so, therefore, I had a lot of karmic family members in my life who were my lessons. They were never my blessings. So, the part that I said in here about my grandmother telling me at the age of 3 I had an evil presence around me, um, well, come to find out that evil presence that she felt was knowing that I was the sovereignty. I was the one that was going to come in and break these generational curses. I was the one that was going to come in and expose them for what their bloodline and their lineage has always done, which was be corrupted and destroying and be, basically sexual sin. Because a lot of them, molested. It was, it was a lot of molestation. It was a lot of incest, sleeping with each other's husbands and wives, having their babies and all this weirdo ass shit that I come to find out. Yes, very dysfunctional. Um, so with me being a product of that bloodline, I was the one to come in to disrupt that. I was their karma. And so they had to attack me. I really do feel like someone put a hex on me or a curse on me or in the bloodline. One of the family members probably passed down some type of entity or something to always be attached. These are the things that I'm finding out as I've been on my journey. And don't worry, I have plenty of stories to tell you. But I had to get this out because it's time for the healing, not just for me, because I've been doing the work, but if this resonates with you or you feel like this is something that is relatable and you have gone through similarities, you're not alone. And just like any and everyone who's on this planet to learn these life lessons, you are to heal this. A lot of it is not your fault. You can you can accept it by knowing that this is what it is, and then do the proper steps to reverse all of these things so you can stop it from proceeding forward in your bloodline when you have kids and your kids have kids. So if you like this already, go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get down to the nitty gritty because, baby, I have a lot more of where this comes from. Talk to you soon. Peace out.